जागने वाले किसी बांग तरह से दिल हो. The hallmark of great journalists is that they know what the topmost issues are, and they are the earliest ones to report the correct information. Today I'll show you a couple of very important examples, although there are many examples, to why I believe Harry Fear's journalism is the best journalism among the mainstream media and the independent news organizations. And the first case is the beheading of babies. I mean, this information blew up. Now we know what the mainstream media narrative in the West was about this story. I mean, they heard it from Netanyahu, then Biden affirmed it, and then it blew up in the Western media, and they all started calling out this story. Piers Morgan got it wrong as well. Now, I'll give a little bit credit to Middle East Eye. They, on 11th of October, called this as unverified report. However, unverified means that they are also uncertain about it. And even NBC on 12th of October called it an unverified report, meaning they are uncertain about this story at the moment. So they didn't blatantly call it as fake news or a wrong story. Now, when we speak about independent organizations, TYT, on November 2023, they were still uncertain about this story.
That doesn't mean that it's already proven that babies weren't decapitated. We don't know. We really don't know.
Owen Jones, from the record I searched, on February 2024 called it a fake news. Mehdi Hassan on March 2024 called it a fake news.
Line number 3, 40 beheaded babies. How can we forget the most emotive and most offensive lie of this entire conflict?
But guess who was the earliest to report it as fake news on the 11th of October?
So-called objective reporting. We've seen one particular instance of effectively misreporting and lies and fake news spreading like wildfire in respect of this latest round of Israel-Gaza fighting. And it stems from the nature of the Hamas and Islamic Jihad attack on the kibbutzim in the Gaza envelope, and exactly what sort of massacre was carried out. Is it true that Hamas carried out beheadings of 40 children? Well, it looks like that isn't true, because there's been no evidence to the same. The Israeli police haven't spoken of the same, and the Israeli army haven't spoken of the same. However, as a result of effectively Chinese whispers and hearsay in the ear of one Israeli journalist on I-24 News, that story was then fed effectively throughout the English-speaking Western media landscape, including landing on the front pages of major London newspapers that were actually misspoken, and that actually children were slaughtered by Hamas, but they weren't beheaded in the tens as has been depicted by this story.
How accurate is that, right? How accurate is that? And do you know why he was so confident in calling it a fake news the earliest? It's because he has an amazing intellect and experience as well on this issue. And a day later, he gave further explanation to why he has good reasons to call it as fake news the earliest. Okay, now I will show you the second big example, which is of Russia-Ukraine war. Now we know what the mainstream media narrative in the West is, that Putin is a dictator, he is a war criminal, Russia is the aggressor. And by the way, even the main independent news organizations, TYT, zeteo, etc., also took that line.
Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
In so many words, yes, he is.
I don't know what so many words are. Butch, is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
Let me say that whatever you think he is, if you want to pull
it's
him
not
back...
what I think. I'm asking what you
well,
think. You're running for president.
If you are a world leader, you don't begin your conversation by calling someone a war criminal unless
so why
you
have you called Biden
clear...
and Netanyahu war criminals?
The idea that Russia is free is preposterous, run by the dictator Vladimir Putin. At the same time, Russia keeps being more and more aggressive, and they keep dragging us back into the war.
Now guess who didn't take this line? But before I show you that, I like to explain it a bit. You know, if your analysis is only a few months old, but you don't see the bigger picture as a whole, you will say, oh, it's Russia who is the aggressor. But when you see it from 2014 onwards, you will realize that it wasn't Russia-Ukraine, it's not a Russia-Ukraine war, it's a Russia-NATO war, because NATO was the main alliance who was using Ukraine as a frontier state. And by the way, United States of America and Russia in 1990 affirmed that Ukraine cannot be part of NATO because of fears of aggression. So it was NATO backed by USA who was the main aggressor in all this. Once you see the bigger picture, only then you will be able to realize it. And guess who was right on this in 2014?
Yes, well, this is the first day of the two-day NATO summit in South Wales. I'm now just meters away from Cardiff. High-profile leaders have been arriving just in the last few moments. This is all in the context of angry demonstrations here in Cardiff and earlier today in Newport as well. The protesters are angry at NATO in general, but what's been coming out of the summit today is also highly significant. We've seen direct allegations against Russia from the Secretary General of NATO, Anders Rasmussen. He has explicitly called out Russia, alleging that Russian boots have been on the ground, that there has been a pledge for 15 million euros from NATO to Ukraine directly. They're asking the question, what is the purpose of NATO in 2014? Certainly these leaders, the Secretary General of NATO, the British and the Americans, are trying to make clear their point of view, which is that NATO is involving itself in the Ukraine crisis.
Again, see how accurate is this. He knows that this is not just a Russia-Ukraine war. When you see the bigger picture, it is actually a Russia-NATO war, and NATO is a stronger force. NATO is the main aggressor here. And this is from a 24-year-old journalist. Do you know why he got it right even at this young age? Because this is a 24-year-old with an extraordinary intellect. This journalist is built differently from the rest, and that's why I say Harry Fear's journalism is the best journalism in the world. And with that, Assalamu alaikum.